I was walking through JFK Airport a few months ago and I passed a girl wearing a shirt that said, "Make money, not friends." I wouldn't have stopped to think about it normally, this shirt with a funny saying, except it hit me that this was essentially the thesis statement of American life and that actually it wasn't meant to be funny at all. Whether this girl had any friends or any money, I couldn't tell you, but it was a glaring example of American cultural attitudes towards money that struck me. And as a dual UK and US citizen, the stark contrast to the British attitude is fascinating. Side note, speaking of money, sort of, I've released a new episode of For the Love today, link in the description. In this episode, I visit a British couple who live on a narrowboat in order to try and simplify their life and finances and have a bit of an adventure. So if you want to see me attempt to drive a narrowboat down the UK canals with zero experience, check it out. Anyway, to be honest, a make money, not friends shirt is an example of the rotten side of American emphasis on money. Because on the flip side, on the healthier side, if you can say that, is, in my opinion, a country that places an exciting emphasis on entrepreneurship, on starting your own business, on seeing the success of your hard work. I can't sit here as somebody who is self-employed and is also an American citizen and say that I think American entrepreneurial spirit is all bad. Except, like we tend to do in America, we always take it one step too far. We can't just encourage entrepreneurship, we need shirts about it. We need the Girl Scouts to sell cookies, or biscuits as they're called in the UK, that say things like, "I am a go-getter." And when we're in the airport, browsing the bookstore for our easy reading, we're first confronted, as I was in JFK, with the business and self-improvement section. You have to pass by Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Selling in a Crisis in order to get to the fiction. And so first, I want to explain some of the differences in cultural attitude towards money across the pond, and then use this to show how American attitudes towards money might be one of the country's biggest downfalls. Firstly, when it comes to talking about money, studies show that Brits are extremely uncomfortable with the topic. It's up there with religion on how much, culturally, it is not polite to ask or discuss. In American culture, it's not necessarily always this way. You're not going to open your checking account on the PowerPoint at work to show everyone your latest spendings, but questions like, "What do you do for a living?" i.e., how much money do you make, but I can't actually ask you that, are very, very common in America. Money is still seen as a personal matter, don't get me wrong, but the extent to which it is much different than in the UK. Americans are just more open about money in general. Then you have another fascinating difference in that studies have shown that the British, culturally and psychologically, tend to report experiencing more harmful effects when seeing someone else become wealthier, whereas Americans don't react the same. A great example of this can be found in British versus American soap operas. British soaps focus on the working class. It has been said because audiences at home want to see people that they can relate to and that seems more real. American audiences, on the other hand, want to see the rich, hunky doctors with millions of dollars living their rich lives and having tons of money and glitz and glamour. So the American soap operas reflect this. American audiences often have a reaction of, "Hey, that person's rich, whether real or fictional. That could be me someday." Because in America, money equals success. That's basically all there is to it. We do have a class system, but it isn't as rigid as the British class system, which is a topic for another video. But in America, class is most often defined by money. Class in the British system is far more complicated and not just based on income or wealth accumulated, but in the US, money is success, and also money means that you're seen as a good person. And money in the US has been seen as success since the Puritan days. Puritans believed that God awarded wealth and subsequently power to the spiritual elite, and that even in general for the average population, material success was a sign of God's favor on you for being good. Now, the Puritans also emphasized social responsibility and what they called stewardship to others, so the messaging has gotten a little bit lost over time, but it does go back to the early days of the Puritan settlers. And again, American attitudes towards money plays into how the rest of the world sees Americans flaunting their money or their purchases. Brits tend to try and hide it, or not necessarily hide it, but be discreet about it. American consumers are often wanting to share with people about their new purchases. Look at the new car I just bought. Look at the new house I just bought and all the cool features. In a way, you're saying in the US, look at how successful I am, and therefore, look how good I am. And we have to remember, as always, in the US, very few safety nets exist for those who don't have money. There's no national health care, there are fewer benefits, there is no unified social housing system. So in a way, money means more in America because it really is a matter of life or death. We know that money offers up opportunity to people from around the world. This is not just exclusive to America, but it's very pronounced in America. In the UK, if you need a surgery, those who have the money may decide to go private to skip the wait times, but you can still get your medically necessary surgery on the NHS for no cost. In the US, if you're poor or without healthcare or without money, it's not just the level of care or wait times that impact you, it's getting care at all. And this is where I think the American attitude towards money starts to show its darker side, and money worship tends to come into play. You can say a lot about the Brits, but one thing I'm pretty confident about culturally is that they don't worship money. You can see this in the way money is talked about, or not talked about as it were, as well as in the work culture in the UK. Someone wearing a make money, not friends shirt in the UK would definitely be given the side eye. And in some ways, this can lead to what some people see as a lack of entrepreneurial spirit in the UK, but on the other side of the pond, America really falls into the trap of the often repeated phrase, money is the root of all evil. Because money is power. Everywhere, but especially in America, and it means that culturally we start to worship business people or businesses altogether rather than the average person, which most of us are. The current president was made famous by being on a reality show about judging people's ability to make money, and I don't care how much evidence there is to the contrary or what the stats are on how much money is actually in his bank account. The point is that culturally he is seen as a business person, as someone who made money, as someone who is wealthy, and in the US we often equate that with, that must mean you're hardworking, you're a good person, you're successful and powerful. We often give positive traits to people with a lot of money because of that worship of money. In the UK, on the other hand, I suspect the response would be a bit more like, who do you think you are? In the UK, I expect the response would be something a little bit like, who do you think you are? I'm not impressed with your money, and the more you talk about it, the less I want to talk to you. Also, just look at the gold card immigration idea for $5 million that's currently being talked about in America. Fast track your way to US citizenship if you're rich. Now, there are similar routes to visas like this in other countries, but in America, it can't just be left listed as a line item on the immigration website. It needs to be the gold card. Gold meaning good, gold meaning wealthy, gold meaning if you have enough money, then you're probably okay. Skip the line, we want you here. Or think about the American lobbying system where companies pay money to influence political decisions. The more money an industry has, the more they push their way ahead, and this is not only allowed in the US, but kind of encouraged. The country is sold to the highest bidder, and many Americans tend to think, well, fair enough, because people and companies with money must have done something right or had the right ideas to get there. They deserve to be heard more. They earned it. The UK does have lobbying and pressure groups, but there are far more restrictions on political donations and regulations surrounding this side of politics, which means you can't simply buy your way into political decisions in the same way you can in the US, though I'm not saying money doesn't also corrupt in the British government. And that's the thing, isn't it? The real truth is that money corrupts, or at least it gives a gateway to easier corruption. A lot of good can be done with a lot of money, there's no doubt about that, but a society that worships money is much more easily swayed by corruption than one that values it less when it comes to what it says about a person. Because I'm not saying British people don't also want and need money. We all want and need money to pay the bills, to buy the things we need, and to buy the things that we want. That's no different anywhere. But in the UK, there isn't as strong of a cultural attitude that having more money means you're a good or better person. Whereas in the US, there is. Now that brings us to the end of another episode. Leave your comments below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.